Good morning and welcome to the little apartment on the prairie. I am all bundled up today because it is like -8 degrees out at the moment. It's almost lunchtime. But I thought I'd talk today. A friend of mine asked me if I could do some more videos on like resources for people with low incomes. And so I thought today, since it's so cold, it'd be a really good time to talk about getting help with your heating bill. Now, ideally for myself, I'd live on, 100 acres out in the middle of nowhere, high whiskers, and have a wood-burning stove and chop down wood and heat my house that way. And I'd have solar panels. Whiskers, nobody wants to see your butt. She doesn't care. But those things are not possible for me right now. And while I am not struggling to pay my bill right now, I do get some help from the state with my utility bills because I'm disabled. And based on your income and other factors, you may get help with your heating as well. So the first program I wanted to talk about is something called the Home Energy Assistance Program, or HEAP, H-E-A-P. And in my state, they call it LIHEAP, L-I-H-E-A-P, which stands for the Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program. It varies slightly from state to state, but there is such a program in all 50 states if you're in the U.S. Now, if you're not, I'm not sure what's available where you are, but there's probably something, and I'm going to tell you some ways to find what's available, even if you're not in the U.S. In my state currently, I'm in Nebraska, you can get LIHEAP for winter just based on your income. I don't know what the income cutoff is, but if your income is low enough that you have some trouble paying for your heat, there's a good chance you qualify. Now in Nebraska, you can also get help for cooling in the summer because it does get really hot here. But to get help with cooling, you either have to be 70 years old or above, or you have to have a medical problem that requires you to need access to cooling. So I'm on some medication that interferes with how my body sweats and how my body handles heat. And so if you're on, and I forget, there's a name for these types of medications, and I forget what the word is, but if you're on medication that does that, that's one of the reasons that you can qualify for energy assistance here in Nebraska in the summer as well. So every fall around November, they issue a payment to your utility company, and then they do it again in the spring in like May or June, usually June, I think. And it doesn't pay for your bills all year, but it pays for more than 1 month's worth of bills. The amount you get depends on your income. So I don't know what the maximum amount you can get is here in Nebraska. I know I have a neighbor who gets more than I do, and he asked me why he got more than I did. And I said, it's because I have more money than you do. So anyway, Google your state and home energy assistance program, and you should find information on that. Also in Nebraska, you apply for that on the same application you use to apply for food stamps, but that may be different in other states. And that brings us to another place where you can find assistance with your home heating bills. Call the agency that's in charge of things like aid to dependent children, food stamps, and Medicaid in your state, which is usually called something like the Department of Human Services, Department of Social Services. In Nebraska, it's the Department of Health and Human Services. But Google that agency, and if you don't know the name of that agency, Google food stamps and your state. If you Google food stamps in Nebraska, you'll find it. So then contact that agency if you don't see information about heating assistance on their website. Just call them and ask, do you offer assistance with heating, or do you know where I can get assistance with heating? I know when I was in Ohio and I used to go to the Medicaid office regularly because I had Medicaid then, I don't now. But they had like handouts that you could pick up that listed agencies that helped with different things in that area, like in that county. So they're a good place to call to get information. You can also call your local United Way. And if you're in even a small city in the U.S., you can probably reach the United Way by dialing 211. But if that doesn't work, either Google your county, like Johnson County, Nebraska, United Way, or else Google the nearest big city your state and United Way. So like I might Google Lincoln, Nebraska United Way and find the phone number and call them. They should know of any agencies in your area that provide assistance with heating. Now, those agencies might not all be providing assistance at the same time, and they might have different rules. Catholic Charities, or in some places they go by Catholic Social Services, is an agency that often provides that type of assistance. So is the Salvation Army. So contact both of those if those agencies exist in your area. If you have Jewish social services or Lutheran social services, contact them too. Here, where I live in Nebraska, we have a community action agency, which also provides that type of assistance. There are other agencies that will do it. I don't know what they're all going to be called, so you're going to have to do some looking around. You can also call your utility company and say, hey, I'm having trouble paying my bills. How can I get help? Which is actually once, probably 20 years ago, 25 years ago, the Salvation Army paid about $300 because my heating bill was overdue. And I got a shut-off notice. In order for them to help, you had to get a shut-off notice. I wanted to avoid getting a shut-off notice, but that wasn't possible. They wouldn't provide assistance until I had a shut-off notice. But the way I found out that the Salvation Army would help is I called the utility company and said, I know I owe you money. I can't pay it all. I could pay part of it, but not all of it. And then I don't know how I'll pay next month if that bill is high. And the guy told me, well, if you don't make your payment this month, we're going to give you a shut-off notice, and then you can take that to the Salvation Army, and they'll help you. And I said, well, I don't want to get a shut-off notice. What can I do to avoid that? And he said, oh, it's all right, ma'am. Just don't pay your bill, and we'll send you one of them shut-off notices. I'm like, you don't understand. I don't want a shut-off notice. But I did get the shut-off notice. They helped me get my bill caught up, and then I've never had to do that again. And I had to have, I think I had to have proof of my income and proof of my address and the shut-off notice. So you'll want to make sure and ask the agency what you have to have. And I had to have ID, and you may need ID if you've got kids, for all the people in your house. Also, in the winter, when it's particularly cold, sometimes they have different rules about shutting off utilities, even if you're behind. And if you have certain medical needs or certain types of disabilities that, maybe you use a feeding pump, or an IV pump, or equipment that has to have electricity, they have other rules about before they can shut them off. You can get away with not paying or being further behind than other people can, I guess is what I'm saying. And I'm assuming that, so there are always people who are going to think, well, people are just trying to get out of paying their bills. And you know what? I'm sure there are some people out there that they do. They just don't want to pay their bills. But I'm going to assume that most people would like to pay their bills and don't want to get shut-off notices and stuff. And it's no fun when it's really cold in the winter and, you're wearing your winter coat inside because you're trying to keep your heat turned down so low. You're like, how low can I turn it down? But I don't want my pipes to freeze, but I can't afford a heating bill. I had a friend once in the summer that she wouldn't even use her ceiling fan except on the hottest days, let alone air conditioning, because she was afraid she couldn't pay the cooling bill. And it's okay to be a little warm in the summer, a little cool in the winter, but that's just ridiculous that people have to go through that. So if you need help, get help. If there are other social service agencies in your area, I don't know what they might be, but if there are some, call them up and ask if they help. And you can also call local churches. Sometimes local churches help with stuff like that. I had a neighbor who a couple years ago got their electricity shut off, and the Community Action Agency and one or two different churches helped because the amount to get it turned back on was pretty high. And so a couple different places all pitched in together to get it turned back on. So you might have to make a lot of phone calls. You might not like making phone calls. Most people don't want to just call up churches and stuff and say, hey, my utilities are going to get shut off. Can you help me? But it's, you know, I wouldn't like doing that, but I'd like doing it better than I would like getting my utilities shut off in the middle of winter. So sometimes you just do what you have to do. And then you can always make a donation to those organizations that are nonprofits at a time in your life when you're in a better place. You might need to make a lot of phone calls. When you call, write down what they tell you, write down who you talk to. If they say they don't help with that, ask them if they know who does. Sometimes they'll tell you the name of the agency you called, you know, half an hour ago. And it's like, yeah, they're the ones who told me to call you. But, you know, you got to be willing to make a lot of phone calls sometimes. But anyway, those are the places that I know that can help with getting help with your utilities in the winter. And also, if your utility bills are particularly high, if you own a home as opposed to rent, a lot of times the local utility company will come out and do like an inspection to see if there's ways that you could be conserving energy. Like, are your windows really drafty? And they might point out, you know, you could take plastic over your windows or bubble wrap or whatever. Or there might even be a program to help you get new energy efficient windows or appliances or whatever. So if you own your home, call your local utility company and ask if they offer some kind of a service like that. If you have ideas, if you know ways to get help with your heating bill in the winter that I didn't cover, please share it down in the comments. And let me know if there are specific topics that you would like more information on in the future. Do you want resources for people with low incomes for something else? Help with housing, help with food, help with medical bills, help with medication, help with, I don't know. Let me know what you're interested in. Everybody try and stay warm out there and have a great day.